Why are we here? Why is hiring important? There's lots of reasons, but most importantly, it's hard, and if you get it wrong, it can really impact your business. And a lot of these statistics will reinforce that. 5 times the person's salary is the cost of a mishire. That's a low estimate. If you're a fan of Brad Smart and Top Grading, he can estimate it a lot more. The more important and senior the role in the business, the higher that number is going to be. 78% of your employees, you'll kill their motivation if you inject the wrong person into that business. 42% of small business owners say that hiring is a challenge. And the reality is that's going to get harder. It's not going to get easier. The trend is the labor market is shrinking, especially the latest generation. They can make money doing other things than working for $15 an hour on your schedule. And if that number is 10% of young people are reselling and making money gaming, if you take 10% out of a population of people that's already too small to fill the vacancies in the marketplace, that's a big hit. Business owners stay up worrying about hiring. Turnover is due to poor hiring decisions. My favorite stat is 62% of business owners report making the wrong hire. The piece of that statistics that's not on there is 38% of business owners are liars. So every business owner has made the wrong hire. So why it's a real important thing. And there are 3 main areas of hiring that business owners report struggling in. Number one is, or the 3 reasons they don't do well in hiring. And number one is they don't create an ideal candidate profile. So they're hiring by, I know it when I see it, going by gut feel. They don't have a defined hiring process. They're doing it ad hoc. Let's bring them in. Oh, that was great. Let's bring them in again. And we'll see why that doesn't work here just in a second. And the third thing is time and resources. Their time is already stressed. They don't have time to dedicate to recruiting. And if they did have time to dedicate to recruiting, they don't know where to go to find the people they need. So what I want to do today is really break down these 3 categories for you, give you some real life strategies that you can take back and put into your business, and hopefully change the way you think about this. And the idea here is to save you time, have you spend less time recruiting, and get better results. Sounds too good to be true. Let's see if I can pull this off. So we're going to start with some time and resources. I want to start with number 3 and talk about why that's important. So this might be what a traditional recruiting process would be like. Preparing, that is, we grab a job description. Sourcing is we take that job description, throw it on all the cheap and free job boards. Number 3 is we go through all those things and we phone people, and half of them pick up, half of them don't. Then we go through selection. We schedule some of the people we screen to show up for interviews. Maybe they show up, maybe they don't. We interview lots of people till we find one, then we hire them, do references, try to get them in the door. The current process is, in this stress market, it's about 100 person hours to make a hire, especially for a key role. That's everyone chipping in, donating their time. That's a whole boatload of time. The best people are only available on the market on average for 10 days. But the average hiring process is 42 days. This market and the way the market's trending, think of it as a hot housing market. Whoever gets there first and offers the most money is usually going to get the house. Not dissimilar to the current hiring market. If we break this down in terms of percentages, people spend about 5% of their recruiting hours preparing. And like we talked about, give me the job description. Let's review it. Do we need to make any changes? They spend 20% putting it on all the websites. And then when they have time, going in and looking at the people that have applied for that job. They spend 50% of their time kind of screening those resumes, making calls, trying to get in touch with people, trying to get information from people. Then they spend 10% of their time interviewing the people that they can actually screen and get in touch with and can schedule in a timely enough fashion to get them in the door. And then they spend 5% on the people that they like and think can do the job. So as you can see, you know, they're spending 70% in the sourcing and screening part of the process. If this process were any other process in your business, where the majority of your time was eliminating bad candidates, wasting your time on phone calls and pre-screening people that weren't showing up for interview, let's say for argument's sake, 50% of your input into this process was wasted time. If that process was in any other part of your business, what would you do with it? The reality is you would either take a good hard look at it, at how you could improve it, or you would scrap it. So the reality is the process people use for hiring is designed to waste your time and hire the best of the worst candidates. So how can we change that? Well, this is the Keyhire process. And as you can see, it's positions, people, process, and you can implement this in your business. So our step one, and where we actually spend most of our time, is in step 1 and 2. We want to understand the business. We want to understand your goals. We want to understand where your experience gaps are, where your constraints might be within the business for this key role. Once we understand the business, we want to really dive into the people. And this is, we want to understand primarily what is the right culture fit, because when it comes to culture or experience, if you have to make a choice, always default to culture, because you can train that experience, but no one wants that high-performing person that is toxic to your culture. We also want to look at that key experience. What are the key pieces of experience this person needs to bring into your business to have an impact? And then the third piece of this, which is often overlooked, is the capacity needs for the business. A lot of times the persons that we hire, when we bring them in, they have all the experience we need, but when we bring them in, they can't move the needle because they lack the capacity. And a great way to explain that is, if I have a $10 million a year business and I need a leader and I want to grow to $20 million, and I'm looking for an operational leader who can bring those processes and procedures, some lean management to my business, but I go out and hire an ops person from another $10 million a year business, and that's the biggest business they've ever worked for. As soon as they come in the door, their capacity is max. So they might be able to do a great job running your $10 million a year operation, but they might really struggle to elevate the business and implement the process and procedure needed to move the needle in your business. And then the third thing is we want to look at comp analysis. Compensation is the sticky point, but the reality is, in the hiring world, you often get what you pay for. And there are two approaches when it comes to paying for people. You can do the hiring for potential, which is the person with a little experience that will take less money, but it is a long tail investment, meaning your return on investment is going to take a long time because they're going to need to be trained and mentored and brought up to speed. So you save money up front, but the ROI on that investment is long tail. The other thing you can do is pay for the experience. So you might pay more up front, but the ROI is short, and the return is short tail, and the ROI comes quickly because they can have immediate impact. The mistake a lot of business owners make is they try to hire for potential, but they expect the short tail ROI and the quick impact. And that's where we often run into a lot of problems, right? And so if you're going to hire for potential, just make sure you have the support and the training and the resources in place for that person to be developed. Then we're going to go to step 3, and we're going to put this action plan together. And once you understand how this person integrates into the business, then we go into what we call our target engage hire. And this is where we want to be going out and identifying the right people and targeting them, engaging with them, and then putting them into an effective hiring cycle. And just to kind of give you a little reinforcement on this process with Keyhire has enabled us to, with our clients, average 1.8 interviews per offer our clients give. And to put that in perspective, the last 4 people that we've injected into companies, we put a VP of operations into a construction company. We worked on doing a starts and project manager for that company. We put a director of materials into another company. Those last 3 roles we did were all 1 interview, 1 hire for my clients. And most recently, we did an environmental company. We did a business development manager and a senior design engineer. 1 interview, 1 hire for each of those as well. So if we don't get it the first time, we definitely get it the second time because of all of the work we do up front. Our clients traditionally invest about 8 to 10 person hours per hire, which is a lot less than the 200 we talked about or 100 we talked about earlier. And we have a 90% success rate. So we guarantee all of our people, and by the time that guarantee is up, 90% of our people, usually more, are still there. We don't often have to replace anyone. We hate it when we do. It's no fun. So how do we do that, right? This is the process. This is the time and resources piece, but how do we do that? So let's look at how do we create an ideal candidate profile. We use what we call an avatar, and this is what we spend all of our time on up front, is developing this. And we call this our 2-dimensional snapshot of the perfect person. You can see it's broken into 3 categories. And I'm moving quickly because we got a lot of ground to cover here. And I know Chuck wants to make sure we do this in 20 minutes. So happy to, we'll answer any questions and talk about ways we can connect here later. But for this, this is a director of sales role. So we want to break it down into 3 categories. We want to look at what are those key pieces of experience they might need in the KPIs in the top right side, the education. We'd want to know what softwares they use. We really want to break down the key pieces of experience an individual would need to bring to our company to help to integrate quickly. Then we look at the bottom, the enhanced culture. And this is a key piece. We want to understand what values and behaviors they're going to bring, again, to integrate into our company quickly. If we're going to put a person on our bus, we want to make sure they're sitting at the front. So all of our other employees say, wow, this person is really good. They really fit into this company. I need to up my game to make sure I'm keeping pace. And then the third piece is that bring capacity. So where do they need to come from to bring us more experience than we need today? And when you're out there hiring, I would suggest that this is the most overlooked and one of the most important pieces of developing those job profiles. If you're going to do that on your own, understand that you need to be bringing in more horsepower than you need today. We often say, if you're a $10 million a year business, I'm not hiring a leader for a $10 million a year business. I'm bringing you a leader to run a $30 million a year business, currently doing 10. And that's kind of an interesting way and an effective way to look at when we say we want you to bring capacity, what that means. So this is what our overall avatar would look like. You can see this would be 100% match to the role. So when we start going through, we would then use this avatar to create our interview guide. This avatar is also going to tell us exactly where we need to be fishing, what ponds we need to be putting our hook in. We don't ever advertise jobs. We don't post them on job boards, and I recommend you don't, because that is just a big waste of time. As we've already identified before, we use inbound techniques. So we take this avatar and it tells us where these people are and where we need to be looking for them. Then we go and outreach to them. We do that target. This is the targeting. Then we're going to engage with them where they live, start a dialogue, start a conversation, then move them into the hiring part of the process. So if we want to go to the next, let's say I found a candidate and we are interviewing them, this is what I would give back to my client to compare to the ideal candidate. As you can see, this candidate, they're amber in 2 areas, so they're not an ideal fit, but they're a culture fit for the company. They definitely have that capacity piece, more experience than we need today. And when it comes to experience, they're missing a couple little key pieces there, but we're never going to get 100%. Our goal is to always be 80% or better. And that has served us well. We don't often want to go below an 80% ideal match. So they would get this kind of high level overview, 30,000 foot. Then we would give them, this is a breakdown. We're going to go through those KPIs and explain a little deeper why we rated them the way we did. Then we would also follow this up with our notes, their resume, and that's kind of what one of our packages might look like. But it gives you a good idea of how you can arrange your information and your interviewing notes and how you can grade candidates in regard to being a match for your role at your company. And we're happy to share this information with you. The avatar, we actually have you can sign up and we'll walk you through for free how to create your own avatar and build avatars out for your position. So now that we understand how to create an ideal candidate profile and what that looks like, the process becomes key. This is where we fail most of the time. And at Keyhire, our hiring process, we call it the 4 pillars of winning interview process. It's divided into 4 sections, to having the correct process, a consistent process, controlled process, and a considerate process. Correct is just making sure we're adding the right steps for the position we're hiring for. Consistent, we always say, have the same people, ask the same questions in the same order. Making sure you have the same people involved in the process and not mixing and matching people. Having the same people allows you to create a baseline. And then when you have conversations about candidates, you don't have one person who interviewed a candidate, a different person who's interviewed another one. And now when they're talking, there's no baseline. They're not comparing apples to apples at this point. And so it makes that conversation really hard. Having a controlled process is always letting candidates know where they stand. One of the candidate experience is very important. If a candidate interviews for a company they really like and they have a bad experience, there is a 60% chance they will reject that job for a job with a candidate or a company they'd never heard of before. But if they've never heard of you and you offer an amazing candidate experience, there is a great chance that they will accept your offer over a company they preferred that didn't have as strong a candidate experience. So making sure it's controlled, setting out that agenda, letting know what next steps look like is really, really important. And then there's a consideration, right? Making sure we're looking at the candidates, what we're putting them through, how is this process affecting them? And this book, we have the 4 pillars of a winning interview process. We have it in an ebook form, and we're going to give you the link to that so you can dive in and create your own hiring process. But I kind of want to go over some highlights with you about what that might look like at the end result. But we'll give you a link so you can download this free book as well. So this is maybe what a hiring process might look like. So you're going to, after you've created your avatar, you would create the custom interview guide. So every candidate is getting asked the same questions, creating that baseline about the opportunity and the role to make sure they have 80% of what we need in terms of experience. They're the right culture fit, and they're bringing the capacity we require. Then we're going to create our strategy, and then we're going to do initial outreach. Notice, not posting jobs, but we're going where these people are. Maybe they're belong to an association. Maybe there's a website that lists all the companies that are in their industry, and we can use that to get some company names and then do a search on a database for those individual people, get their contact information, and reach out to them and say, hey, I have this great job. Would you be interested in talking about it? If they say yes, we want to do a pre-screen. And this is the most important thing. Once we get into the dark blue, every step of this process has to be a go, no go. So the pre-screen has to be designed so you, within 15 to 30 minutes, can assess, do they have what we need in terms of experience? We don't want to dive into culture. We just want to do a quick and dirty check, check, check. Yes, you have 80% or more of the experience we need. That's a go. Let's schedule them for the second. If they don't, we're going to let them know right now, hey, it's been great talking to you. I don't think it's the role for you. Go, no go here. Then we go to the second interview. We're going to spend some more time with them. Now we're investing more time. So they need to earn our time. So the second interview, we're going to dial in deeper. This is where you're going to go point by point through their resume. Tell me about your experience, and you're really going to dive in. Are you going to be a culture fit for us? We want to make sure we're asking the right questions. So at the end of the second interview, they are, hey, it's been great talking to you. I don't think this is the right role for you. Or, hey, this has been great. Now we're going to bring you in and start getting other people to invest their time. So it's a go, no go here. In the Keyhire process, this is when, at this point, if they're an 80 percenter, we're going to send them over to our client and say, we have someone you need to talk to. In your world, you would go from the second interview right to maybe a video interview. So if it's your HR person or whoever's in charge of the screening at this point, this is where they might say to you, the business owner, hey, do you have an hour? I want to set up a video call with a candidate. And in that video interview, you're going to do your assessment and say, yep, I think they have what we need, and I think they're going to be a good fit. Now we're going to bring them on site. And at the end of that video interview, if they're not the right fit, if we are not asking the right questions and we're unsure, we haven't done it correctly. So we want to go, no go at the end of that video interview. Hey, it's been great talking to you. Don't think you're going to be a fit. Or, hey, this has been great. We need to get you on site. Then we're going to bring them on site, introduce them to the key stakeholders in the business that we want involved in the process, who we're going to outline at the beginning. And at the end of that on-site visit turns from an interview into a sales pitch. If we're going to get them on site, we want to tour them around, and we really want to promote the benefits of working for our company at this point, because the reality is they're probably talking to another company in this environment. And so we kind of go into sales mode here. And then once they leave, we need to decide they are a fit and they're not. If we've gotten to the on-site visit and we're still saying, I don't know, maybe we should bring them back one more time, we have not done our job well. We have not asked the right questions. We have not done the go, no go at every step. The reason this becomes so important is, we outlined before, top candidates are off the market in 10 days. We want to get the best people for the job. We don't want to be in a hire the best of the worst situation. If we can knock this out and go through this engage and hire process in less than 10 days, and when they leave, say, that is the person we need to hire because we've outlined it at the beginning. Their avatar matches our needs. We're not using they just don't feel right, or I'll know it when I see it strategy. The data says they're a fit. And as we've gone through each step, we have qualified their experience and their match to the role. And so we've eliminated the I'll know it when I see it, because we've defined what it looks like at the beginning. We've eliminated the gut feel, because if they don't check all the boxes, it's a no. And so once they leave, we need to be able to say that is the person we need to hire, even if we've only interviewed one person. We don't need to interview, well, let's talk to 4 or 5 people before we make a decision. If you've clearly outlined the role in the beginning, you don't need to talk to 5 or 6 people. When you talk to the right person, you know that's the right person. The other side of that is, if you're going with this, well, let's talk to more people. By the time you talk to more people, if the original person you interviewed was the right person, they will be off the market, because there's no way you can talk to 4 or 5 people in 10 days. So this is an efficient, effective, highly focused interview process that will limit the amount of time you're talking to people, puts all your work up front, but it will also increase your accuracy in hiring and maximize your potential to make the right hire the first time. So that is it. Those are the 3 pillars of a successful hire. And here are some of the things we had talked about there throughout. So if you want to get our ebook, The Hiring Success, there's a link there. I think Chuck might send it out as well. If you want to book a session with us, free session to go through an avatar building exercise on a role that you're recruiting for, we're happy to do that with you. If you want to check out our podcast or our YouTube station, there's tons of information on there as well. We'd be happy for you to check that out and let us know what you think.